allows the customers to connect to the remote data center operated by Amazon AWS. Right? The console is actually a place where most of our tasks are done on the cloud for whatever it is. It is to to manage, administer, operate. All these activities are done on the console actually. Right? Console is a medium through which you can get connected to the AWS large infra pool actually. That's what it means. Any question around the console you want to understand about the console, please ask me, please.
Sendil?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah. So, like till now, like, I didn't get like what is console like?
Okay. Console is basically, what is console? See now, console is basically when you try and log into your system, you get a desktop image, right, on a laptop.
Correct.
Right, that is called console. So console is a interface which allows you to execute variety of your request, be it a command, be it GUI, be it whatever it is. So console is a graphical user interface provided by AWS for us to go and use the services and architect the different services and combine them in a variety of phases and manners in which the end customers can use certain services. So console is basically a web interface through which you will do the administration activities on AWS. So AWS console is pretty much the basic for us to know to explore various technologies and components put forward by AWS in AWS world.
Okay.
In a way, I can say it is one of the tool enabled over the web. Okay. And it allows you to access the AWS services.
Okay, it's like a VDI.
VDI is a virtual desktop interface wherein
No.
yeah, it is sort of, yes, it is sort of.
It's like the way we actually log into VDI, and so we can say like the similar way in AWS also console is that like once you actually like that particular.
AWS has a VDI which is called Workplace Services. Okay, but it is actually like VDI, you will have multiple services. So
Okay, got it.
like VDI, you will have multiple services wherein you can go and access through this console.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay, so you can probably type in aws.amazon.com in your browser.
So it's like having the WebLogic or WebSphere admin access, right? So
exactly,
where you deploy.
Exactly. That's a console. Exactly. That's the right example of a console actually.
So it's like a architect menu wherein we can choose which one we want.
Exactly. It's a menu or a medium in which it connects the service provider with the subscriber. See, you are a subscriber. I am a subscriber of the services of AWS, right? AWS basically sells the services through the internet. So obviously it is it is over the internet, and they made this web GUI, graphical user interface over the web. That is why
so this is the only
Amazon,
gateway.
Yeah, it is. That is why it is called Amazon Web Services. Okay. Gateway, gateway. I mean, yeah, in a way where this is a path in which we can go and enter into a AWS world. That is also a right definition.
Okay.
So access will be only with the admins, or anyone will have this?
No, we'll go there. We will create a free account for all of us. So what happens, nowadays all the cloud service providers have provisioned a free subscription of their component.
No, what I'm asking is during the implementation, right? So only the admins will have the access to the console, or
no, only admins will have a console access.
Okay.
And the console access can be given to admin in a form of root, or we can have multiple admins: compute admin, storage admin, network admin, security admin. Like multiple admins we can have, and they will do their own roles through the IAM account, which is identity and access management. We'll touch upon those things.
Senthil?
Sukanya, yes.
Actually, these terms VDI and all, I didn't get it. But can you explain me with a simple sort of example as you did for the banking thing in the last session? I
Okay.
mean, what's it?
All right. See now, we'll go back to the basics. Okay. So now, if you are a user of a laptop and you will be given a username password and you have been given a basic sort of training to use your desktop, right? The user
Yeah.
ID password is provisioned and the operating system is installed on a laptop, right? And that gets authenticated with the domain in the backend of your organization, and you get Sukanya dot your account at accenture.com, and you have your own password that's been generated by first time of a user. I mean, your backend admin team.
Yeah.
Right? And that gets shared to you, and that is how you start off with your identity. So you are identifying yourself to your own network. So it is like that. In AWS world, we authenticate with the AWS services with our own identity. This identity can be created by a self-service self-service way by us itself. That is the power of AWS the tool. So it allows us to create our own account by a simple steps of following ABC. Certain credential have to be passed on, like credit card and whatever it is, right? And then it provisions the account in the backend on AWS identity and access management world of it. Then it differentiates the variety of admin with the different privileges, right? It is that will probably will go in depth. Actually, let's understand the console first. What is the console is all about, and why do we need to go to the console, and how do we create our own account in the console to navigate to the world of AWS service components. In a simple manner, let me tell you, it is a web interface. Okay, it's a website, in a web application operated by AWS to onboard a new customer. Okay, once the onboarding of a new customer been done, the backend process creates credentials like username and password. Once after that, based on the subscription you have taken, it allows you to navigate to the world of AWS services, and you can pick and choose your component and you pay what you use for. That is a model. I mean, there has to be some interface, right? I mean, if you are walking into an office, you will be given a HID card. I mean, that is the first and foremost entry. You show your access card to the the proximity system that allows you inside the building. Once you go inside the building, right, and then maybe your biometric or whatever it is, the next level of thing has been done to allow you to your respective workplace. So this is more of similar example of that. For you to become a the user or a admin of an AWS services, you need to have an account. That account how to be provisioned. To create an account, the interface is such a way it is developed by AWS, which is called AWS console. Make sense, guys? Or you want pretty more explanation about this?
So it has got inbuilt the workflows for IAM and all, right? The approvals and all those things.
Exactly. So it has an inbuilt workflow built in, inbuilt technology built in to manage your identity, authority, access, and all those things. Actually, all through, there are concepts called the AAA. Okay, one is the account. Second is the authorization. Then the accountability, accounting of what you do.
So Senthil, yes. So this all comes under infrastructure as a service?
No, this is where you need to understand. Actually, this is a basic element, right? Infrastructure as a service, yes. I mean, if you look at AWS, once you create the account, it does not limit you only to IaaS. It'll, you'll be able to go and subscribe the PaaS services. You'll also be able to subscribe the SaaS services, whatever has been, offered by AWS.
So initially it's a IaaS, and again along with the IaaS, again you will be actually using the services.
Don't get confused, Abhishek. Let me help you. Okay, first is let's understand what AWS offers. All right, we all know AWS offers cloud services, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So cloud is nothing but a combination of services offered by various providers. Example, AWS offers infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. There are a variety of components within the service model. Those were built by AWS for various use cases. But how will you go and access it? How will you go and make use of it? You need to have an entry, no? You need to have a proximity in which you'll have to go through, correct? That is where this IAM comes in picture. Actually, identity and access management is the most important aspect of the entire cloud. The landscape of it.
Okay.
Maybe if people have used WebLogic or WebSphere, they will be able to relate it better, right?
No, I can show you a simple way. Actually, I mean, I don't want to jump into here. Let me open another screen. Let me make it simple. See, this is a URL, okay, aws.amazon.com. You see that, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so in your screen, probably you open your URL and go to aws.amazon.com. See, it talks about various things, their products, their solutions, their pricings, their documentation, the introduction of AWS. It talks about variety of things. So it is more of a self-learning, wherein you can also do on your own the moment you have an access to aws.amazon.com. You see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you all opened aws.amazon.com?
Yes.
Okay. See, there is an option here, right? Sign into the console. Sign into the console means I already have an account wherein I can go and log into the system or log into the GUI or log into the interface or log into the console. Right? We'll use the term called console here because that's what mostly people have been practicing it. Done. So you do not have an account, right? If anybody have an account, please.
I have account.
Okay. You have an account actually, right? So which is very good actually. So that means the rest of the people over here need to create an account, perhaps to navigate to a different service components. So we go to AWS Management Console. See, it is taking me to the next web page, wherein it is allowing me to create a new account. Okay, because I already have an account, it is taking me to that page.
Senthil, like for me, it is not showing.
Senthil, you can take sign into different account. I'll give you a new page.
Yes. Sorry, Abhishek, you are saying something? Tell me, please.
Yeah. I am not seeing this signing to console button.
The button one, maybe your browser
instead,
is not supporting. Maybe you'll have to use Google Chrome or something.
Okay, I am using Google Chrome. 1 minute.
Update the browser. You will be able to see this.
Amazon.com. Here it is showing create AWS account.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
opened in. Okay. If I say create, I click on this. Sign up. I can click on sign into existing AWS account. Okay.
So Senthil, even computing, storage, everything is done in console or a different
Yes.
applications?
The compute, storage, network, security, EC2, all the services, no? They're all, you will be given an access to the whole lot of resources through the console. Actually, the console is basically a sort of API, which goes and talks to the backend pool of resources, and that's been presented on the console for you to go and pick and choose. So console is a medium in which you interact with AWS world. as an architect, as a support admin, whatnot.
So this is only the single point of application for us to manage.
This is a single point of interface, actually. Yes. Okay. Do you see now this screen, right? Start building on AWS today and create free account. You're able to see this page, aws.amazon.com, if I type in. Okay. Guys, any challenge?
I'm seeing
it
only
asks for credit card details, right?
It will definitely ask for a credit card detail, but it doesn't charge you actually for a free services. You have to be very mindful of it, right? And maybe we'll go through. I'm just clicking create a free account. Let me go and create an account.
Since the screen is frozen to I think the home page. It shows Amazon EC2 Spot instances.
Are you able to see my screen, guys?
No. I mean, screen is frozen. As your screen is visible.
But it's now it's coming. Sanjay, just one more question here on my side.
Yeah.
So just thinking that I want to deploy. I'm working for X company. So I just want to deploy a project. I want to develop a project here, a new one. So how do I have to subscribe? Is it through? It's not from my account. It's from the company.
They will be given an account to you. So that is called IAM account. See, there are two accounts. We will go there. That is where actually I'm trying to show you the screen. Right. Okay. One is provisioned by the organization, and you will be delegated with the the rights. If you are a network admin, you will be able to play around with all the network components. If you are a storage admin, then you will be able to do a storage related. If you are a security architect or an admin, you will be able to do a security related stuff. Right. It's a combination of permission, or it is called authorization. Right.
Okay.
That authorization. Yeah.
So for example, if an individual authorizes for something, it will be different, and for a company's perspective, it will be different authorization.
Exactly. But pretty much company will have to go through this formality only where we are now, right? They'll have to create a root account. The root account is a governing account of all the entire organization, in which they can create multiple accounts for multiple regions. Example, now maybe we'll take Accenture or Sony as an organization, right? Or IBM. I mean, let's IBM, right? So these three organizations are a large organization worldwide, and they wanted to go and adopt the AWS services. What happens? The procurement team will have to go and create this root account. The root account is nothing but a company account, like IBM.com or Sony.com or Accenture.com. Some sort of credentials have to be passed on. And this information, it has been captured by these guys based on the process which is, set by AWS.
Okay.
And it talks about, the basic the questions like what's your name, what's your ID, and what would be your ideal username and password and all those things. So it captures the basic information about the person or about the organization. Then it does go and create an account based on the validation done against the credit card. Because why a credit card comes and plays a role, AWS will charge for the services on the credit card. So like the way it is not such wherein you go to a hotel, have food, and then you pay back and come out. It is like this. In our food court, we go and we have a card, and that gets charged. Then you are given a food. Sort of an example I'm just making it actually.
Okay.
And it is a sort of a card which is authorized to AWS for them to charge your card for whatever service you use it. For an hour or for an hour, for per day or per day or per month or whatever it is. But there are different type of billings, methodologies, commercial economics built in the AWS. We'll talk about all those things in the eventual courses actually. Right. So let's get started. Yeah.
Senthil, sorry, it's a silly one actually. It's a professional or a personal account while doing it, I have to choose.
Say that again, Sukanya. I'm unable to hear you properly.
No, when I was creating an account in the AWS, it's showing like two options. One is professional and personal. I have to choose the personal one, right?
Yeah, you choose personal one.
Okay.
Okay, so probably, all of you please try. Let me also open a new account on AWS.
And under what scenarios the card will be charged?
So card will be charged, if you provision EC2 instance, EBS, or your any of the AWS services, right? When you try to provision them and use it beyond the free tier will be charged on your card. Don't worry, I will help you so that it does not you don't end up paying for anything. We can provision this account, we can delete this account, actually absolutely not an issue. Okay, so that flexibility is there. Look at my screen. AWS sign in for a root user or IAM user. So root user is actually the organizational account like IBM, Accenture, or Sony, or whatever it is. IAM user within the root, like Sukanya, Arvind, Rakshit, Prasenjit, Ajit, Abhishek, and Senthil. So some sort of accounts are created for us based on our profile. What are we expected to deliver in the AWS? So you are able to differentiate between these two different accounts, right? One
yes, got it. So basically, when a company has to get some services, they have to create a root user account, and then they have to give IAM user accounts under it.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Perfectly stated, actually. And this is the only console. Either it is a personal use or a professional use, right?
Okay.
And if I'm a smaller company, like if I'm a company like Early Rise, right, I can go and create an account as a root user, right? I may not have much people, and I will be the only guy who will be doing all the activities of another admin. In that case, I don't require an IAM user. But when it comes to large company, large organization like Accenture or IBM or Sony, they will have a wide variety of the resources. I mean, the architects are engineers, the cloud support team, right? For them, they'll have to delegate the right authority with the access. So that's where the IAM comes and plays a role to provide you the right credential for you to do a right job. It should not limit you, and meantime, it should not, you should not be using more and more than the one which is assigned to you. So you stick to your boundary of delivering those components. So that's where this IAM comes and does the play. See, you need to understand what is IAM is all about also, right? So identity and access manager. If you look at it, so my screen is paused for you, right? For now, you go to your browser. Okay, so type in identity and access management, please. Do you see that? You're able to see my screen, right, team?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. See, in the world of IT, the identity management, it's an important piece for you to know. Most of the large organization, what they do, they use Active Directory of a native feature, which is built in by Microsoft, in which they will onboard your account. So that is where, the IT team or the organization try to know who the persons are, right? Like name and, the basic, the fundamental informations have been captured through the onboarding process through HR, right? So that is where your account gets created, your email ID gets created, and variety of other process gets kicked in. Like, you have been given an access to certain location, a certain building, certain floor, and certain proximity, the locations like the closed IDC or something. So these are all identity and access, general, term. When it comes to cloud world, okay, identity and access management plays a bigger role. That is where the onboarding of the organization starts. Suppose you are an architect, tomorrow you want to create an account for your customer. This is where you go and create an account for a customer, and through which he gets an access to wide variety of services offered by AWS. Then, if you look at identity and access management itself is a very, very wider portfolio in the IT world, like any other software, like be it your SAP or be it your Oracle, be it your HCM, be it your any large products which comes for a use. So one of the biggest component is identity and access management. This is widely developed by multiple organizations like IBM, and you have identity access manager from Oracle, and you have identity and access management from Microsoft. You have identity and access management from your CA, and you also have an identity and access management from Tivoli of IBM World. These are all the large organization actually wherein they provide. I left over another bigger name called Micro Focus. They also have a great product called Identity and Access Management, which is part of the NetIQ solutions. Right? It is a very big tool in which most of the large organization, be it IT company or non-IT company, whichever domain they are in, they have to create an identity for an employee. They have to create an identity for a partner. They have to create an identity for a vendor. Then once after that, they'll have to create a access. Once after the identity, you need to it is about proving ourselves who we are. Are we authorized? Are we entitled for? Then it goes into an access. The access is basically, it sets a ground rule that what are we entitled to within the IT world or within the IT services. So that is something access. Authorization, like, can I make a change? Can I, bring a variety of, can I apply a variety of changes for a cause of business reason and so on. So that comes as an authorization actually. So which is your responsible area. So these three components you need to understand because cloud, it's a core component actually. One of the core component is identity and access management. Once you pretty much understand this, then it is easy for us to segregate the various types of roles, and the roles can be assigned the permissions to play around with and all whatnot, all things. Got it? So the one what you have seen, the big players like IBM, Oracle, NetIQ, VMware, and all those people, right? So similar way, the identity and access management is also developed by AWS, and this AWS identity access management is closely integrated with the cloud, the foundational services of compute, storage, network. So this is what allows you to go and use the services offered by AWS, be it EC2, S3, or whatever it is, right? This is your account. This is your, authorization. This is your the access. Any question, doubt, guys, on this? Hello.
No.
No doubt. Sure.
Senthil.
Please.
So now we have two cases, right? One is like here, since is our like a personal account, so we are creating.
Where is that? You see, let me look at it actually, because I've been using this account for last 10 plus years. Well, let me go to the create new account. I did hear from you as well as from Sukanya, right? So it says create an AWS account, right?
Correct.
So you keyed in all this information?
Yeah. Okay. No. My question is, so now here, like we are creating the account for ourselves.
Yes, you're creating your account for yourself. Yes, you will be a root.
Yeah. Okay. So like, so once I create the root account, so am I allowed to create some other accounts?
Yes. Abhishek, once you create a root account, you can invite hundreds of people to be an IIM account.
And everything will be under, like you will be root for them. So you can manage all those accounts.
Exactly. The root is ultimate power and rest of them are under the power.
Kind of like an admin account, and then you have some other
super
different.
Admin. It is called super admin.
Super admin, yeah.
Yeah. Below that, you will have multiple admins, like say, security admin, network admin, storage admin, compute admin, OS admin, monitoring admin, operation admin. Likewise, you can create a different sort of roles for a different type of admins. It is like, superior king. A kingdom has got a very big king, under which there are multiple kings on a different territory globally. And they're all governed by one single king. So that is called root account.
Okay, so for this, like we are like whatever the free, generally we free account. So for root also we have free
No, I mean here AWS does not limit us. Actually, it does not differentiate us from free and paid professional version of it. It is one single console. Okay, the moment you touch some services and you start using it, and you will end up pay for it. That is the only cautious we'll have to be actually. Got it?
Service means, can you just give one example?
The EC2 is one of the service. Amazon S3 is one of the service. All compute, storage, network component, whatever, whatever the component, the infra component, which is being formed as cloud, everything is termed as a service by AWS, because it is serviced by them. They are not offering as a product wherein you can buy and keep it in your home.
Okay,
got it. It is a service.
Still like
no problem. Let me try and give you a different thing.
Like EC2, when you are telling, right? So what is EC2? So like we should be able to understand it.
We will go there.
So now you are telling, because EC2 is a service, but I don't know what is EC2.
Basically. No problem. That is a long way for us to. We'll have to understand EC2, S3, a lot of other elements actually. Whatever services are offered by AWS, I'll touch individually everything. Okay, and I'll show you a hands-on session of what it is and why we need to use this. Right? We will touch upon that. First and foremost for us is to create an account. See, high-level understanding you carry this, right? Cloud is all about a remote data center, which is spread across the globe in a different region or a country. Each country has got multiple data center to mitigate the failure and DR, right? So these pool of resources are, given, and these are all pooled together, and through one single interface, we go and access it. So, going to US, we don't have to create a different account. Going to Europe, we don't have to create a different account. Going to India, we don't have to create a different account. It is one single account, and one single console allows you the global access to all the data centers of the world of AWS.
Okay.
And this access is defined in two manners. One is a root access, root user, and the other one is IAM user. The root is a superior privileged account through which you can govern the rest of the other accounts. Okay, this console is where we will have to go and register our credentials by passing the credit card information for us to gain the access to AWS world, because that is a service model built by AWS. This is what they wanted to do.
Okay.
Done. So we'll create an account. All of you, please try and create an account. No, please. Try and go and create, and show your screen. I'll probably help you.
So I'm on the screen to provide the credit card details. So I can go
ahead.
No,
you do it your own way. See, it is a simple thing actually. For all of you, it doesn't take much time actually. Just go there, click. While selecting option, ask me what is that option you are selecting. Then I'll be able to help you with the right options. Don't limit yourself. Sukanya, you're able to get through creating account?
Yes, and one doubt, does it make any difference whether it is a credit card or a debit card? No, right?
No, it doesn't make any difference. I have used my debit card.
Okay.
Let me also create one new account.
Sendil. Yeah. So in general question, like, please. So now like someone is giving their credit card or debit card.
Yeah.
So like, so while like once they start using the service, so immediately first they have to pay and use it, or like bill will be generated after using it?
What happens, that we will talk about. Billing is a very big subject actually within AWS, right? So for organization to organization, it differs based on the contract they get with AWS. But in a simple terms, AWS will charge your service per hour on a per month basis.
Okay.
So it says 12 months free, right?
That's what they say for certain services. If you are not cautious, then we'll end up pay for AWS.
Okay, no, like one small thing, like let's assume like we have unknowingly we have used some services.
You will be paying for it.
Yeah, but then my credit card, I can understand it will generate the bill to my credit card. But if we have given some debit card which doesn't have the money itself,
it doesn't accept generally actually.
No, because they might be not knowing, right, whether our debit card has the money or not.
That is true, right?
Yeah. So now there is a bill of.
What will happen?
I think only after getting the money you will be able to use the service.
Yeah, you will not be able to use the services.
Okay, no, because because I was seeing some people actually without knowing them, they gets the bill of like a huge amount. Sometimes like because of their mistakes, and thereafter like they have to pay. But in case of credit card anyway, like automatically it will be deducted. But let's assume we have a debit card and we are started using the service. Okay, so in that case only it will tell like, okay, there is insufficient funds or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a way, if you give the debit card which doesn't have, so at least it will initially only it will restrict us, right? Rather than giving a credit card and then automatically it get deducted, we won't even be knowing like.
No, let us understand by creating account, by passing on the debit card and credit card, right? Let us see whether we are able to get through with the account creation.
I think if you are getting charged, that there will be some notification, right? So for this, you will be charged.
No, the first time once you register your card, I think you will be charged ₹1 or something to validate is it the right credit card and does it has the right credential information and all those things.
Yeah.
That they will do. The testing will be done and they will ask you for a one-time password and all those things.
Now after that, once you are registered, now you are there. So say unknowingly you went into a service, right? So will there be a notification that this will be charged to your credit card?
No. There won't be any notification for it.
So for the benefit of this particular training, Senthil, and all the participants, so what we need to choose is we just need to choose only those free services for which the participants won't be charged. I mean, your free account, right? So that part of the governance also Senthil will be covering as part of housekeeping, so that when the exercise happens for the hands-on, all of the services that are created, all the instances, etc., has to be created then and there and deleted, so that the account remains clean. So that part of the housekeeping and governance center, please cover that with all the participants so they are aware of it. So when the lab sessions happen, so whatever happens in the lab session has to be cleaned up after, before the end of the session.
Yeah. See, one thing is, we'll have to be cautious while practicing it actually, right? So we'll have to be sticking to the free tier, whatever has been offered by AWS. Otherwise, for sure, you will be built your, the practice, whatever you do on the AWS console actually. It may not be much actually. If you're using it for an hour or something, there will be some cent. It will be charged on your account.
And Senthil, the other request that I had from my side on behalf of all the participants is that please ensure that all the participants are able to complete the sessions. So if let's say somebody is not able to complete the lab session, just kind of wait upon them so that all of them complete and then move forward to the next topic.
No problem. I will check everyone's console once they log in and they'll have to show to me so that I will have a confidence that they have gained an account. Otherwise, I'll teach them. Right?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that is what I'm checking with Sukanya. Sukanya was able to get through. I think Abhishek is also able to get through. Looks like. Prasenjit, you already have an account, is it, Prasenjit?
No, I created just now.
Oh, you created one. Very good.
I have already one account.
Yeah, which is good. Anybody else has a problem in creating an account? Oh, okay. Let's give a few minutes for people to hang around with the screens.
This is Arvind.
Yeah, Arvind, yes.
I logged in. Does it by default go to the billing page? Because I don't remember. I had my free account more than a year ago.
It would have expired actually. The 12-month free tier. It would have
No, I have created a different one now.
then you will be able to.
A different one. Okay, so it has taken me directly to the billing and cost management dashboard. And then once I click on the services, it shows me all the services like EC2, then S3, then AS, everything.
Okay. Let me sign into my console, what I've created for.
This is which browser? Because I didn't get this page.
The one which you are looking at my screen?
That's right, Cynthia. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't get this page. I got the billing and cost management console.
My billing dashboard, is it?
I think so. I think it went there directly. I don't know why.
No,
Let me see if I can open.
No, don't worry. We'll navigate to all the screens and the interfaces. I'll teach you.
Okay.
This is what you see now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It says
okay. You go and click on your
rupees and it.
Yeah, you click on your account, my account, my organization. I'll teach you all those things. What it is. Okay. That's okay. It can take you anywhere. See, all we need to understand is creating an account, right? If you are able to get through creating an account, then it is like sort of, we know how to get into a console. Then we'll talk about different console and what console for which region and what it is and all those things. We need to understand what is this console all about and how does this console unites us with the AWS wide variety of services. That's the goal of the
Okay, I'm in that management console, AWS management console.
Excellent.
Fine, so say build a solution.
No, we'll navigate. We'll go one after the other.
Yeah.
Everybody have an access to the console, right? Let's get a hang of the console. Will anybody have a challenge creating account? Guys? Hello.
No, Samuel.
You're not able to create, is it, Sukanya?
Yeah, maybe I was able to create it. I've created it.
Oh, very good, very good, very good.
So do you need to change the region to AP? Because mine one, it is US East Coast.
It's okay. By default, it takes you to US. See, I'm actually based in Singapore, so it is taking me to Singapore. See, it is a selection what you make on the on the AWS console. Suppose you wanted to use resources based in India, you can select India, right? I mean, it doesn't matter actually. You can create any region actually. It's a global building which gets enabled actually. Then you can go down and narrow down to respective regions. Now, how do I see that you all created your account? Is it possible for you guys to share the screen?
We'll try.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I'll share mine.
Yeah, Ajit.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. I think you need to enable it.
Okay, let me see. Okay, you will be able to now.
I think somebody is trying to share. I can't share now. You cannot start screen share while other participants are sharing. You have to unshare, then I can share.
Okay, yeah. Try now, please.
Yeah, this is Ajit here.
Yeah,
can you
Ajit,
see
yes.
my screen?
Yes. So I think you created your account. Very nice.
But how do I go to home page where I can? This is the one, huh?
Click on Ajit Verma, please.
Ajit Verma.
See, now you selected Ohio is one of the location in US, right? Click on Ohio.
Okay.
You'll be able to see all the regions, data center regions. These are all, the actual geographical location in AWS language. It is called as the regions.
Okay. So when I want to take a compute or some storage, I'll go to Mumbai.
Whichever, I mean, we'll go there. That's a design principle, right? It depends on your customer, or it depends on your. See, here you're a root account. That is where you are able to see all this, options, drill downs, menus, and all those things. If you are an IAM account, by default, it will take you to the respective region because you have been associated with that region. Got it. Now, if I'm a global admin of an AWS service, I look at Sukanya being the admin of my AWS, Asia Pacific, and I look at Ajit as my admin as a European region, and I look at Prasenjit and Arvind as my US admins. Right? As a root, as a privilege, I have an option to dictate that you need to manage these resources. We'll talk about this region once everybody have an access to the management console. Then I should be able to take you with each and every screens. Thanks, Ajit.
Yeah, thanks.
Prasenjit, you are through, right?
Yeah.
You are good enough. So Rakshit.
Yes, Sanjay. The thing is, I'm not getting the SMS, that PIN number.
Maybe
4-digit verification code.
Okay. Is it right card with the right things?
The card and all. The 2 rupees got debited from my card.
Okay.
But I'm
Then
not
it will
getting
come.
that.
Okay.
I'm waiting for that SMS.
Okay. Okay. It takes time actually. Sometime.
Yeah, it takes some time. Some
Sometime actually. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm waiting for that.
Is Arvind still on the class training? Arvind, you're there, no? Arvind?
Yes, until I'm there. I ran into some issues, so it is asking me to re-enter the details.
Okay. Please do that. Please do
Waiting
that.
for the OTP. Okay.
No problem. No problem.
So how to go back to that AWS management console? I've clicked on something, but now.
No, click on the home page actually, or click on your name. Select your home page.
Yeah, it is giving my profile details. If I click on
Profile
my
details. One moment.
Is there? I don't see anything called home.
Prasenjit, click on AWS icon, top left.
Top left, yeah. Console home it is called.
Okay. So all these are services, right? So whatever is listed there, like it says billing, EC2, blockchain.
Yes. See, so now, AWS world, everything is a service.
So which one is chargeable and which one is free? How do?
Nothing is free here. Everything is chargeable.
No, I already swiped, right? So how do I know which?
No, navigation. You can go and click.
Okay.
Maybe you're able to see my screen. Let me see. Let me share my screen back again. I believe you're all able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you see your name here. That means you are identified by AWS that you are an authorized user, and you have a enablement in the backend of the IAM tool, which has been built by AWS to associate you to the respective region, or the default region, whatever you selected during your account creation. So that's pretty much that's been done, right? So this is what you see actually. Once you log in, you get to into this console. This is where actually you try, manage, explore various things about AWS components and its stacks, or so-called services, right? So different services like offered by AWS are listed here for a benefit of for us to go everything to know about from the single console. This was not the case originally, when they started off. Now they are trying to improve their services as well, and they have listed all the components of AWS services components with the catalog, or with the the grouping, like compute, under compute what all things they have, right? Under containers what all things they have, and security, R&D and compliance perspective what all things they have, and storage what all things they have, database what all things they have, management and governance what all things they have, and transformation, migration and transfer of data, and what all the different services they have, and for ML and data management, whatnot, variety of things. So this is pretty much very important for us to understand all these components of an AWS, what is that it means, what is that it provides. Right, as a solution architect essay, whatever the curriculum allows us to touch upon those components, I will definitely touch, and I will go through individual things.
Senthil, Ajit here.
Ajit, yes.
As a root user, can I have some compute in US and some compute in India, some compute in Singapore?
Yes, yes, absolutely, yes. That's called availability zones across the world. See, that is the power of cloud, right? So earlier, we didn't have maybe a company like who wants to deploy a data center. They are limited by the region where they are, and they'll have to depend on various people across the globe to do this work together. With the AWS world, you have the flexibility to go and provision your resources wherever you want. Wherever in the sense there are certain regions in which where AWS operates, you can pick and choose. So this is what it is. The list is this: US East, North Virginia is one of the region, and Ohio is another region. North California is another region. Oregon and Cape Town in South Africa. And APAC, you see in APAC East 1, South 1, Northeast 2. These are all the naming offered by AWS for various country. These are all the country presence where AWS operates their cloud services, indirectly data center services. You look at it, how many countries they are in and how many data center they have. In the engineering they have done, they pulled everything, connected everything through this powerful console called management console. Got it? So in one single, console, you are able to navigate to multiple data centers. Multiple country has got multiple data centers. The reason why people adopt AWS is because of their biggest presence in all these countries. I believe, Ajit, you asked me this question, and Abhishek also asked me this question: why people have to go to AWS? Why not other cloud? Right? This is one of the biggest use case because the wider reach worldwide.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Is everybody are able to create an account, guys? Arvind, you still waiting for your one-time password?
Until I got a confirmation and also that verification code from Amazon AWS. Now I'm trying to log in again.
Very good.
Very good. I'll let you know.
No problem. I think anybody else have a problem? I think only Arvind, right?
Even I got the password. I'm using that. Good. Yes. I'm choosing that basic plan.
Very good. Yeah.
Since one question in general for this AWS trend.
Yeah.
How is this cloud percentage penetration these days? In the sense, is it 10-20% going to go up till 70%? Because I just want to visualize.
I am not able to get your question, Ajit. You mean to say how much is the percentage of adoption of cloud services globally by the people?
Yeah, probably let's say by India percentage, maybe we are some 5-10%, or projected to go next 80% in next 3-4 years, something? Any idea?
Yeah, this percentage number started long back, actually. See, in the cloud world, there was a different type of terminology, right? Something called cloud enabled, cloud inspired, and cloud, right? So now those things have gone. Like people are in cloud actually. People are talking about multi-cloud. People are talking about AWS, Oracle, Google, and Azure, wherein people are trying to put different applications in a different cloud. So adoption ratio is pretty much been there. See, there are some organizations they will not be able to move to cloud because of various reasons. Example, the bank.
So if you take me to the console where I use the computer.
Hello.
I think from the adoption point of view, percentage is still not that high.
No, very high, very high. I'm telling you, very high actually. Very high. See, we will talk about the domains and the different industry who are adopting. If you look at, US Pentagon is the United States security, governance of security for the nationwide.
Yeah, they have their private cloud.
No, they went for Azure, which is 30 billion in revenue. Yeah. AWS, but the organization adoption rate is very, very high. Those people who did not go to cloud so far is only the bank, the largest bank of all the banking industry in the world, and some financial institutions because of sudden regulatory compliance.
Even banks also.
Some banks have gone actually. Yes, you're right.
I used to work with the Barclays.
Barclay.
Yeah, so they also started moving, like few of them.
Correct.
Their stuff to AWS.
They are started venturing into hybrid, partial on-prem, partial in cloud. You're right. See, I will tell you, cloud adoption, right? Pretty much 100% with respect to Office 365. None of the organization running the Exchange server or a mail server on-prem today. Everybody moved to cloud. And tomorrow, eventually in the next 5 years, I don't see the traditional data center players have a say. These guys will not be able to grab the entire market share. 100% they'll not be able to. But at least 60-70%, I actually assume that it will be taken over by this hyperscales market, because you get the benefit of less price, right? And you don't have to plan, prepare, deploy, wait for a few years, and all those things are the hassles, and to plan your capex, get the right vendor and all those things. That will go off. The cloud adoption rate is much faster, and it has been rated in few hundred billions market share globally by Gartner. Probably you can look at it. And AWS is one of the leading company, followed by Azure. The third goes to Google. The fourth one goes to IBM or Oracle, right? That's how the list is keep going actually. If you look at SAP as an organization, they already declared most of the SAP landscape how to go to SAP HANA, SAP S4 HANA, and obviously it has to be on the cloud. And there are some deadlines given to them. People are moving now. So Oracle will also say that, if you are using my product, please move back into my cloud. I don't have time to manage your on-prem. So we'll talk about all those integrities, why people are asking, why people are dictating, and why people have to go to cloud. The change is a constant aspect which is changing the people. We'll look at the current COVID situation now. So it is very difficult for a person to go to, the office and manage the data center. If it is in cloud, he can sit anywhere and manage it. Most of the companies who are surviving, they have the right capability mix of managing this infrastructure being remote. And cloud is basically, it allows you the mobility portion of it. See, today, team like myself, Ajit, Prasanjit, Rakshay, we all, we can sit wherever we are. We can manage resources which is sitting out of US and Europe. For a cost benefit, they look at outsourcing these certain jobs to a certain region actually. Like maybe the India is being a knowledge pool, and we get a lot of work actually. Largest organization like Wipro, TCS, Accenture, IBM and all, they are started making billions of money in the cloud operations and cloud management. See, the time has come wherein AWS himself is building a service operation team, wherein it was not there earlier. So they have built, AWS managed services concept last 2 years or something, and they are helping large clients. And this work is happening around the clock in a concept of follow the sun model. Like Sun is in India, then India team manages it, and Sun is in US, the US people. If Sun follows wherever, the people have been picked up and chosen to make sure that these resources are managed and operated in a region wherever it is. On a nutshell, it is all about flexibility, right? It's all about flexibility, mobility, adaptability, and all those things. The variety of parameter goes why people have to go to cloud.
This is Arvind.
Yeah, Arvind, please.
Yeah, I'm successfully logged in. I can navigate. I could go to EC2 console, then S3 console.
Excellent, excellent. Excellent, excellent. So all of you have an account, right? Sukanya, you have a created account. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And Rakshit, you created. Ajit, you have done. Abhishek, you have done. Arvind also done. So almost everybody are able to, create an account. And we are identifying ourselves to AWS as a user of their services. And AWS obliged our request of creating an account, and they provisioned your identity on AWS Vault, right? And you have been given a username, password, and through which you created your root account. And as a root, you are able to get into management console to navigate the variety of services offered by AWS, right? That's the learning we made now through this exercise. Any question or doubt, please ask me, guys. Hello. No question.
Simply it's fine until now.
Very good, very good. So no doubt. So we are understanding. We have a great amount of understanding about the AWS management console, account provisioning, and we do understand the methodology of provisioning a new account for ourselves. Now, with this exercise, you will also be able to create an account for any organization, which is so-called professional account, right? It's a selection. It's a two different selection and methodology in which you will be able to navigate and provision this. Excellent. So good move. I believe we were able to get into AWS console with our own account. Let's go into concept of AWS regions, right? So click on, you will be able to see my screen. So I've clicked on one of the, country location called Singapore. Right. So select, maybe I will, for a sake of training, I will select Singapore as a region. Okay. I am in Singapore region. Okay. Singapore region will have multiple data centers. So within Singapore, as a proximity of territory, they will have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, or whatever zones have been built by them. Zone is a logical data center within the same country. Likewise, AWS has built a data center in all these regions. For us, it is very important to learn about the region and the zones. So the reason why I'm reinstating this point is there could be some services offered in Singapore and that may not be available in India. Some services are offered in America and that may not be available in Europe. And some component, it is allowed in Europe and that may not be available on any other region. So what is something, it is specific to this region and specific to this zones. Got it? Any question on this?
Yeah, Senthil, any particular reasons why they want like this, or is it some?
There is a reason for it. Yes, that's a very good question actually. See, now take an example of India, right? So take an example of a bank, right? So we go to the ATM, and the ATM is connected in the backend through a cable, either it is MPLS or a lease line or whatever it is, right? GPRS or LTE, whichever technology they will have to connect, right? First one is connection, the establishing the physical link. The second one is the distance between the data center plus the AWS, the ATM machine. These two things, the data center of a bank and the respective ATM of the location, is measured by a distance. This distance actually creates a latency. The latency is measured by number of devices which are interconnecting data center with the terminal, ATM terminal as such, right? The better the backend technology or the connection, the lesser the distance, the lesser the latency. Means if a customer in India wants to adopt AWS, it is always good for him to go and choose the resources of an India than going into US and selecting the US as a region, because they'll get into a sort of latency issue. The more number of distance, the more number of latency it will be, and it will create a sort of slow performance for them. That is why AWS has invested a lot of billions of money in all these countries. If you look at Virginia, America, they got 1, 2, 3, 4 regions. Africa, they have 1 region. In Asia Pacific, they got close to 7 regions. Canada, they have 1 region. Europe, there are multiple regions in Europe, and Middle East, and South America as well, Sao Paulo, right? These are all the global data centers or global cloud services of an AWS deployed in this respective country for that country specific people to use the resources with the lesser latency. That's all about in a nutshell. And that is that is not the only point. That's not the only reason why they want to go for, right? So now the reason why, if I am in India and if I choose to be selecting the services out of Mumbai, right? So if I go to Mumbai console, if you look at the AWS management console is taking me to Mumbai. You see that change, AP, Asia Pacific, South 1 console, AWS, the console wherein when we logged in, it takes to a global console, management console. From there, it is navigating, or it is taking us to a respective management console of a respective country. Within the country, we have zones, zone 1, zone 2. Minimum they will have 1 or 2, 1 to 2 zones minimum, right? The zones are nothing but a logical data center. In India, they talk about Mumbai. In Mumbai, they have a data center 1, data center 2, data center 3 with the different data centers. Maybe they would have made some arrangement with different data center place. Got it?
Yes, Senthil.
Okay, so this is yeah.
So Senthil, like
yes.
So
Abhishek,
now that
yes.
So he has to, the admin has to change the regions according to his needs?
No, that is not the right answer actually. Okay, now you are an admin, I am an admin, Abhishek. Now I work for a client, right? Nowadays, we need to understand the global economy and global scale and global spread. Now you have a customer in the US, and you as a consultant or an architect being engaged on the project to design an AWS services for them, right? The first and foremost question from a functional aspect, you need to understand where the users are, how many users are, which territory they are belonging to. Okay, there is no point for a user who are sitting, the most of the user sitting in US, for them to create resources in India. Got it? As an architect, you need to think through. This is one of the functional requirement for you to study the requirement, which AWS region will be the right fit for them to provision the services. Does is my answer helps you, Abhishek?
What if it is something which is like,
see, tell me please.
Which are like we have to support the multiple regions?
No problem. See, AWS does not limit you, from any aspect. You can very well create your, cloud, the variety of web server, app server, DB server in America, or in Asia Pacific, or in Europe. Okay, and you can create a, app server, web server in US, and you can have a DB server in India. That spread of the various combination permutations are allowed. Okay, but there is something called well-architected framework. The design or the element of components you pick and choose have to match certain prerequisite and the qualifications, and it should not create a complication. Actually, as an architect, we should always make things simpler, but from a platform. AWS as a platform. When I mean platform, with the whole AWS suite of services. Okay, it allows global scale. Like there could be a company or an organization like Pepsi. They operate across the world, right? And you got Walmart. They operate their organization across the world. I mean, likewise, there are multiple organizations in the world. They have a global spread. They have a global reach. If you look at that sort of scale, Pepsi US, you can provision them Pepsi US certain services. Pepsi Europe, you can go and provision the services in UK. Likewise, you should have a global thinking. I mean, you need to understand where the users are from and what is the requirement of them and which region would be ideal. Is it good to have multiple regions for them? Those all things are design elements for you to think through from a region perspective. This is where you need to understand the physical data center. Like, if we are in India, and if we are developing something for India, say some bank, example, you take ICICI Bank or Indian Bank or whoever it is, the large scale bank who operates multiple, branches, multiple ATMs and multiple head office, zonal office, corporate, right? Obviously, they will have multiple data center and DR and near DR and everything, right? So this is one sort of scale we are looking at it. Actually, for them, we will have to look at it like, what would be the ideal play for them to put those services and which could be the right region. So if Indian Bank or ICICI Bank is asking you to create a services and you go and create them on US, it doesn't make sense actually. When technically there is nothing wrong, you can do that, to be honest.
Yeah, Senthil, there is only one exception to this. That is, if the data is restricted, then it cannot leave the country.
No, we will come there. Yeah, I'll talk about actually. Yeah, excellent point. Actually, you brought in. See, now there are certain country of law. During my introduction, I talked about country of law, GDPR, PCI, DSS, HIPAA. These are all regulators, right? A regulator who talks about securing your data. And I also talked about certain country like Germany. They don't like their data being in a different territory within Europe. I mean, they are European, but they still prefer to have their data residing within their own land, right? So these are all certain law of land, that governs certain, the design parameters. Suppose, if you are designing a cloud solution for a German customer, obviously he will ask you, boss, my data cannot go outside. So in the region Europe, show me where am I? You see Europe, Frankfurt. Right? These are all the compliance aspect of it. So that is another eye to look at it actually. So personally identify information of a country, I mean, country governs that law with the various parameters. And the bigger governance is NIST, which is a US thing, and a lot of other governments. Like for banking industry, PCI is one of the biggest compliance. Payment card industry, PCI DSS is another compliance actually. For European Union, GDPR is another bigger compliance actually, right? Likewise, India has got their own compliance, and every country, every land of law has got their own regulations, and regulated by the regulators, governed by the data privacy and data security law. This is very important thing, for you to grasp and make a note of it actually. That is why AWS, I mean, that could be one reason, or that, there are a lot of other reasons. One is they wanted to have a global reach. That is where they went ahead, invested in all the continent. If you look at America, they got North America, South America, Asia Pacific. If you look at, they have in Hong Kong, Mumbai, this is Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo, right? Seoul is Brazil actually. I mean, Seoul and Tokyo. And if you look at Canada, they have another region they considered as Europe. They got multiple locations like Frankfurt, Ireland, London, Milan, Paris, and Stockholm. On Middle East, they wanted to venture into, so that's where they deployed something in Bahrain. And if you look at Sao Paulo is North America, Brazil. In Brazil also they deployed a data center actually. This is to meet various regulations, and this is to ensure the required presence in the local country, this is to give a wider reach for global scale, and people can make use of them. If the global company, they can pick and choose all the location, they can operate for a specific country for a specific service. So example, I'll tell you why, right? So you take a global scale of company like Unilever or something. Unilever is one of the largest retail company, operates across the world, right? Based in Europe. And you take PepsiCo. PepsiCo is also a global company. They operate across the world. See, for them, they can't go to all 190 plus countries and go and build a data center. Imagine the cost. How much they will be spending on the real estate, how much they will be spending on the compute, storage, network, place, operation, management. It is a few billion. But if they try to go and choose AWS, they don't have to invest this. And they don't have to really wait for a longer time for them to attain the benefit of going for. This is a use case I'm just trying to throw in front of you all so that you can think globally. Got it? Hello?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Any question, Sukanya, Rakshit, Prasanjit? Hello?
No, very good.
No, Sanjay.
No question. Very good, very good. Excellent. Right. So now, so the region is very important for us to understand for modeling the data center location, the physical location, because the resources, all the services, whatever is running inside the region are specific to that particular country actually, right? Once we have a greater understanding about the regions and the zones, then it will be easy for us to go and select the right the architecture for target state, like how respective component for any industry application can go and sit and take place. So that's on a nutshell about the zones and the data centers, right? So now good, we are able to talk about the management console, the different management console for different country, like based on the continent, like America, Europe, and Asia Pacific, and so on, right? Every time when we go and click the certain region, that takes us to the respective country. Got it? So the moment I clicked on Hong Kong region, if you've seen my screen, it is giving me some message. It says you can control whether users in your AWS can access resources in this region. When you enable access, these are all the action which happens in the backend. Just take a look at it, please. You see that second point, enabling a region is free, but your users might create or use resources that result in AWS fees. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. See, the other important aspect as a fundamental thing, what I wanted to cover is, see, the erstwhile days, the IT are, the different normal difference between the cloud admin and the normal admin, right? It is differentiated like this. The cloud admin has a view, as a view and as a control on the cost. Okay. The normal admin, he doesn't have a control on the cost because he doesn't have a view because he's not authorized. As a cloud admin, you take a steps of measuring the cost plus the benefit of an organization when we try to provision certain services. Okay, that is the power of cloud admin. So now if you look at, if you have a server admin, storage admin, network admin, they have been given an option, you will have to manage this and you manage it. But cloud admin, when I know cloud admin is authorized with the accountability of spending for certain components. So it is always important to keep the cost in mind of designing a services or provisioning those services in the ground. And the concept of region. Yeah. Sorry.
That's why the Cloudera admin.
Cloud admin, not Cloudera. Cloudera is a different terminology. Cloud admins. Okay.
So now, usually the root.
Yeah. Usually
the root user will be the cloud admin, or is it someone else?
No, root user is the super admin.
Okay.
And you cloud admin, I mean, as I told you, right? So for each region, like you all created an account, right? But we are able to navigate to multiple data centers or regions of an AWS in a different country. And example, Rakshit can go and create an account for a person like Senthil or Ajit, and he will be, we both will be delegated to manage a region of Singapore.
Okay.
I am an admin of Singapore region, but I am not authorized to go to other regions of AWS like US or Europe or whatever it is.
Okay.
Right, that's a delegation and authority, so that we can drill down. That is based on IAM role. We'll talk about that role in much better and much longer in the subsequent session as well.
Okay.
Senthil, who is managing the overall cost? It's a root user?
It's a root user. See, this is my billing dashboard, right? It is only visible to the root user actually. If I create a IAM account, they will also have access to the price, what has been spent. But the global view, they will not have it actually.
Okay. So if I want to restrict, let's say, storage up to, let's say,
$1,000, you can do that.
I can do that. So the region will not cross beyond that.
Correct. Exactly. That's a delegation, right? And for an example, the finance department can go up to $250,000 a year. HR department can go up to $100,000 a year. And based on the budget, whatever they have done, the departmental budget can be allocated to the respective account.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good actually, right? So then the other aspect of region is, right? So we need to understand the multiple regions have been given here because AWS supports multi-currency billing. Earlier they were supporting only US currency, like everybody are billed on the US dollars. Because of local regulation, compliance, and all those things, AWS supports. If for India billing, it is on INR. For Singapore, it is SGD. For Europe, it is it's on euros. For America, it is on dollars. So they support multi-currency billing. So that is also one of the power of going for multi-region and all those things. Since we touched about billing and cost management, I just wanted to give you some sort of the overview around the multi-currency.
So the exchange rate is real time. When they bill it, it's today's exchange rate, something like that.
The billing, that is where actually it depends. Like, go to a services called EC2, right? I'm just showing an example, okay? So I've selected a EC2 which is based in Mumbai, right? So it is my screen, right? I don't run anything. And here is an option for me. I go and create a launch instance. See, the console is trying to create a server actually for me, correct? I have an option to create this server, and this comes under the free tier eligible. That means I will not be charged for it. Okay. And if I select something else, a different, the element like this, if you look at these are all free, right? You see that these are all different flavor of operating system workload. And by mistake or by intention, if you try to select, maybe I'll select this. If you look at, there will be a price for it. Got it?
Okay.
So when we say one instance, so what all can have one instance?
One operating system, and CPU, memory, and the hard disk, underlying hard disk. And we will talk about very detail about the EC2 instances. I mean, I just came here to show you guys the billing methodology, right? That was a question.
Okay. Apart from this way, once we have instance, there we can actually execute all our open source things.
Yeah. It is like operating system.
Okay.
Right? So,
everything is like, okay.
Whatever you do in your laptop, you can free to do. If you're an admin of that particular OS, right? A particular instance, you get connected to them remotely, either through RDP or through PuTTY, whatever way and means you wanted to connect, and either it could be through a public key, private key. There are a variety of way in which you can get connected to this server. or a workload or an instance. Right?
So is there any concept like, so you are already in the instance of AWS, and there actually again you are going to another, if you are setting up the another cloud.
That's cloud to cloud, multi-cloud. I mean, within it is called VPC, Virtual Private Cloud 1, Virtual Private Cloud 2, Virtual Private Cloud 3. See,
so even,
the question is this, right? You have already a cloud, right? And you want to create an additional cloud. Could
correct.
be, example, finance cloud, HR cloud, admin cloud, IT cloud. Likewise, you can create multiple cloud, and you can differentiate them.
Okay.
And among the cloud, you can do a connection, peering, all those things we can do. Exchange of information, and data manipulation, all those things can be done actually. We'll talk about that's the concept of VPC. Amazon VPC is a terminology, right, which teaches pretty much everything about the way in which the resources have been augmented.
Okay, so once we create a new instance of EC2, then we can log in, like now the way we have login as a root console.
Yeah.
So we will through browser only we can log in to the AWS instance, right?
Not exactly so, right? So the moment you provision your services, what happens? There is an RDP console gets created, like the way VDI. You click on the button, right?
That will be shown in this console, like this root console.
It
that
will
all
be
the
shown
list.
in the root console. Yeah. List of services, whatever you provisioned, you can see them here, and you can connect from the console as well as from the RDP.
Okay.
We will do the training session. No, you will create your own instances, and all your doubts will be clarified through that. Whatever AWS allows, and you can explore all the methodology.
So one thing, like okay, so like apart from that, like so what is basically, I just want to understand when we talk about the creating instance and the setting up the things. So what is the most challenging part basically, like
the most challenging part is designing the holistic solution on a longer run for a customer actually, right? Maybe I'll show you an architecture, right? And see, you're asking me what is the end after the training, right?
Okay.
You see my screen?
Yeah.
See, this is a sort of architecture, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So Amazon VPC, availability zone 1, availability zone 2, right? One
Correct.
single VPC, if you look at it, is protected, and you are running some of the instances on VPC subnet 1, and you are running some of the instances on VPC subnet 2. Then you are connecting them through the internet through virtual private gateway, and there is a over the internet you are connecting your customer gateway. Then there are a lot of clients.
Okay.
Correct. And this is the end state actually. This is the simplest diagram which it does explicitly states about the architecture, how it need to look like. But to be honest, the VPC itself has got hundreds of components. We'll go one after the other, otherwise it will confuse you actually. So let's finish off the regions, zones, and identity and access management, root account, IAM account, and all those things, right? And the billing consoles, the different type of services, different type of EC2 instances, the pricing free, and all those things. So we'll do mostly with the free resources. You create and get a hang of how does it looks like and how it works and all those things.
Okay.
Okay, any other question, guys?
So, from solution architect point of view, is it required for you to know? I mean, apart from this settings and all, right? So
yeah, absolutely, yes. You need to know from a solution architect perspective. You need to know end to end.
Okay, and also other things like the APIs or Kubernetes and all those things, or
that is a platform as a service actually, right? Kubernetes is a PaaS
yeah,
component. It is not an
yeah.
IaaS component, right? But from a solution aspect, the learning is a endless thing. I mean, we can learn anything, everything.
So yes, so solution architects should know all those things, right? So whether it is PaaS, SaaS, or IaaS, or is it only the IaaS part?
So solution architect associate is some extent, solution architect professional to some extent. Then there are solution specialist. There are three different play. Probably I'll show you the segregation of it, right? See, learning path by the role. You are able to see my screen, right? Guys?
Yeah.
See, one is the initial, the cloud practitioner, right? So that is not where we are. Now we are into this architect. If you look at this path, it talks about the path of this. The first and foremost is technical essentials, architecting on AWS, and solution architect associate. Got it? These are all the path which talks about certain components actually, which is specific to certain curriculum within AWS, and that's how it is. See, the object of our learning is solution architect associate exams, and the solution architect, the curriculum for solution architect associate. But from a learning perspective, from a AWS perspective, it is wide and vast. You got a lot of things.
Okay.
Got it. See, once after you complete your solution architect associate, then you move into a path of advanced architect on AWS. Then you do your exam preparation. Then you get into your solution architect professional, right? The other path is actually on doing respective other components as well, and you can toggle between the multiple path.
Okay.
So, Senthil, like one more doubt.
Yes, please.
So now if we see like aws.amazon.com, so now it is like just like directly it is hosted, right?
Correct.
So anyone can access.
Anyone can access. That is why it is public cloud.
Yeah, correct. But then let's assume like I have my company stuff, which I wanted to put it on AWS, but then I don't want like a directly exposed to everyone, like because the thing is like
no, it doesn't mean like that actually. See, example you give me, right? What is it you want to put it on cloud?
Okay, no, I mean to say in this way.
Yeah, Abhishek, tell me, Abhishek.
Yeah, if someone get to know the only just the normal credentials, they can.
No, not that way actually, right? So the root user of an organization is actually with the top guy, right? It will not be shared to everybody. Company has its own rule, right? And what I can do, I can tie this back into my identity and access management. Example, Abhishek, you work for Sony, right?
I used to work.
You used to work for. So now, what is the current organization? I just want to give you a real-time example for you.
Yeah, Medtronic.
Medtronic. Okay, now your account is abhishek@medtronic.com. Okay.
Correct.
And this abhishek@medtronic.com, it will be an account which will be created by you on AWS. Means it gets authenticated twice. One on your organization side, second on AWS side. Now tell me, unless and until you go and give your credentials to someone, there is no chance or a way through which the credential gets compromised. You get my point?
Correct. Yeah, but then, still I feel like if I know someone, somehow, because see, like what happens, like most of our to connect to get the the access to any of our internal applications and all. So we have to connect. We generally create to VP. We connect to VPN, or like we have to be within the range of our. Like there should be like designated system. Then only we should be able to open. But here in this case, what is happening? Since like it is on production. Yeah, because like getting the password, it's not that difficult in a way, because like password I am talking about, because now we are able to log in just with one password, right? See, like even if you talk about the mobile banking related stuff also, they don't rely just on password. Like after that, you always like to, for some important transactions, they will be relied on your OTP.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep it on password, there is always chance that one or the other person can guess the password, or there might be chance like somehow
to compromise the password.
Yeah.
Right. So one is guessing, another one is people can look at behind the screen, behind you, and try to see what you're typing and all those things.
Correct. Yeah. Because if I have in my company itself, if I am working, if there is one cam, anyone can capture like what I am typing, and thereafter they will be able to log in. Yeah. So
no, I agree with you. See, here you are not a normal admin; you are a root admin. Okay. And root admin, what happens basically, once example I'll take, Medtronic is wanted to go into AWS, right? If Medtronic has a right architect like you, okay, and you will be able to control and gain your password, keep your password secured way. One. Second is, you will also look at a single sign-on aspect, and third one is, the moment you put single sign-on, and you are the moment you integrate with your the identity and access management, there is a concept of multi-factor authentication. It is not just a username and password, right? That also can be integrated while provisioning the services. See, that's a very higher level of services, right?
Okay.
It doesn't mean AWS gives you simple access. They have started with simple. I mean, they made it simpler, but in reality, it is a huge technology working in the behind the scene to protect your account.
Okay. Okay, Cynthia. Thanks.
Yeah. That is good. That's a good question, actually.
Simple, another question.
Yes, please,
so only one person can hold the root, or this role can be given to many persons?
See, root generally, today we created using our own name.
Right.
It was created against the company name like IBM or Sony or Capgemini or Oracle. Then this is a common account, right? So
yeah,
once after creating, I'll tell you, don't get confused. Once after creating a root admin, now what we can do, the moment it got delegated, right? If the large organization is outsourcing this operation and administration to some other larger company like Accenture or XYZ, the moment those admin comes into the picture, they will be able to set a permission, like root access will be able to manage only the casting perspective, and they will not have any say on the compute or network or storage or the weather elements. So that's a segregation of roles. So that can happen, actually. That's a detailed subject altogether. I'll try to touch upon that as well, actually.
Okay. There is a 4i principle or something, right?
My reason was that some people join and leave companies. So if somebody has taken a root account, how do you transfer it to other person?
I mean, even root account is something which is an higher level account, right? If you wanted to reset and whatever credential has been passed on for the first time, right? That has to be like sort of the question and answer we'll have to go through, and we can also reach out to AWS through support. Reset the password, and they will help you.
Okay.
Any other question, team, on the identity, access, authorization, the different console, or for a different region?